have with us Dr. Devadatta Mishra, Associate Professor of Philosophy, JKBK Government College, Cuttack, to deliver lecture on the philosophy of G.W. Leibniz, a pluralistic, metaphysical, idealistic philosopher. She will concentrate upon the monadology of Leibniz, which happens to be very interesting to the audience. But before her presentation, I would like to mention a few lines about her academic pursuits. Dr. Devadatta Mishra has a brilliant academic record throughout. She graduated in 1989 from Dhenkanal College. She did her post-graduation in 1991 and MPhil in 1993 from Utkal University when I was her classmate. During her student career, she has obtained many awards for showing excellency in debate and co-curricular activities. Uh, friends, being the daughter of Professor Kailash Chandra Mishra, a senior most teacher in philosophy, she has built her career to love with philosophy and to live with philosophy. Dr. Devadatta Mishra started her teaching career in Government College, Ongur, in the year 1999, being selected by Odisha Public Service Commission. Then she proceeded to IIT Kharagpur for pursuing doctoral degree. She did her doctoral degree in 2017. Then she joined in Vinayaka Acharya Government College, Berhampur as a lecturer. Uh, then she became a principal in charge for a couple of years. She was then transferred to JKBK Government College, Cuttack in 2019, and now she is working as HOD philosophy since then. She has contributed many articles which have been published in different national and international journals. Being a creative teacher, she likes to reflect her potentialities in teaching philosophy in the classroom in different ways. It's our pride privilege to invite her to this platform for the noble cause of her students. Now, I would like to welcome and invite Dr. Devadatta Mishra to this webinar. Welcome, Dr. Mishra.
Thanks, fellas, for such a
Okay.
nice welcome address. I don't know whether I deserve this or not, but first of all, I extend my hearty thanks to the group members for welcoming me and for giving me a chance to talk something about philosophy with a group of intellectuals. So, first of all, I say good evening to all of you. Really, the philosophy family, as I found, consists of a group of intellectuals where we can learn a variety of things and also the variety ways of learning also. So it is my privilege to have such an opportunity to give some talk in this platform, and especially I give my thanks to you for inviting me. So let us start. My topic is on Leibniz monadology. As you know, Leibniz as a rationalist philosopher made deep and important contribution to the field of metaphysics, epistemology, logic, etc. So far as his metaphysics is concerned, his monadology is very concise and condensed presentation of his theory that universe consists of infinite number of substances called monads. He develops the concept of substance, the monads, in accordance with the ideas developed by the Cartesians and the atomists. According to him, the Cartesians are right when they make the concept of substance the central point in metaphysics and explain it by independence. But they are wrong in accepting independence in the sense of unlimitedness. So, if independence is taken in the sense of unlimitedness, then one has to draw the Spinozistic concept of substance, that is the one and the only divine substance, logically. In order to avoid this mistake of Spinoza, Leibniz accepts independent action in place of independent existence. Instead of self-existence of substance, he accepts self-activity of the substance. Thus, substance is not that which exists by itself. Rather, substance is that which acts through itself, or that which contains in itself the ground of its changing state. Substance is defined by active force. Substance is an individual being endowed with force. On the other hand, the atomists are right when they accept that each composite substance consists of simple parts, eternal units, but they are wrong in accepting it as indivisible. Any material, however small it may be, is divisible to infinite, but the physical body must be composed of immaterial constituents, which are simple, eternal, and indivisible units. Thus, according to Leibniz, atoms or real elements are spiritual. These indivisible, self-active, simple, eternal, spiritual units or atoms are called as monads. Hence, Leibniz accepts the monads as real, and he says that they are the alone reals. Leibniz, combining the two lines of thought, the Cartesians and the atomists, established the famous doctrine of monadology. From the Cartesians, it followed that substance is self-acting force. And from atomism, it followed that substances are immaterial units. Combining both the statements, monads are defined as self-acting immaterial units. The monads develops its states from its own inner nature and has no need of any other thing. No external force is required. Monad itself is self-sufficient unto itself. So there are infinite monads. But while explaining about these infinite monads, Leibniz said that each of them is real as the single substance of Spinoza. The monads are eternal, but they can be destroyed only by the miracle part of God. No monad has any part, and it is truly indivisible. Like the ultimate reality, it is self-contained and exclusive for everything. Being a real unit, monad contains the whole infinity of existence. Every monad represents all others in itself. It is a concentrated all. It is a universe in miniature. It contains within itself the possibility of everything which happens to it. As an all-inclusive whole, it mirrors the world. A living mirror which generates the images of things by its own activity. Each monad is a world apart, all by itself. So all the monads, in this way, Leibniz explains as windowless. Nothing could pass in or out. To him, each monad is self-sufficient. Each one is charged with the past and big with the future. The monarchs are spiritual, and being spiritual, they have the two important characters of perception and appetition. By virtue of its perception, each monad mirrors the whole infinity of existence. As a result, in the series of more developed monads has clear perception, and the less developed monad has confused perception. So when we say that the monads through perception, they try to know, and you'll find that there is a series. Some are more developed and some are less developed. And here we find there is a gradation in the monad corresponding to their infinite series of perception. Even in the same monad, due to its own stage of development, there are different degrees of perception. As each monad is a force, it has appetition, by virtue of which each monad tends to become the whole, and thereby each monad tends to pass from the obscure to a clear perception. All monad represents the same universe, but each one differs from the other in its own particular standpoint. This is due to the difference in clarity. Since all monad reflects the same content, their difference consists only in the energy or the degree of clearness in their representations. Clearness varies with reference to activity. How? Now, the clearer the representation of a monad, the more activities, and as clearness and distinctiveness varies, so also the infinite number of monads are not qualitatively alike. There is a variation. So no two monads are alike. All monads are found in a hierarchical order of existence. If an action is done from a very obscure perception, then it is known as impulse. And if it is done from a clear perception, then it is known as the desire or will. This implies that activity of the low monads is purely impulsive and random. But in case of the higher monads, the activity is prompted by his will and desire. However, the difference between the impulse and the desire is one of the degree and not of time. And in this way, Leibniz explained that there is a gradation of monads, a series of monads, and as per the gradation, the lowest monad, which has a lower perception, is called as the naked monad or the bare monad. And these monads, in case of these monads, the perception is more obscure, and they are most unconscious perception. So the lowest monads are bare monads, pass their life in deep sleep and are in a dormant state. Above the naked monads, Leibniz says that there are conscious monads endowed with memory. When the bare perception rises to conscious feeling accompanied by memory, the monads are called as soul. And here, these monads make the plants and the animal world. Again, when the soul rises to self-consciousness and to reason, it is called the highest monad, the spirit. The highest monads have reason, knowledge of the universal truth, necessary knowledge, and they are raised to the knowledge of the self as well as to the God. So Leibniz explained God as the highest monad, the queen monad, the Purus actors, the pure form. So, while explaining the series of monads, it is seen that in the lowest monads or bare monads or naked monads, the force appears only in the form of a mechanical movement. In animals, the appetization is expressed in the form of instinct, whereas in the spirits, the form is found in the form of self-consciousness, desire, or will. But the difference among the monads, as Leibniz explained, is one of the degree, not of a kind. Because each higher stage comprehends lower monads. As even in spirit, many perceptions remain obscure and confused. So here we cannot say that they are of different kinds. Because of their perception, we find there is a variation in their degrees. And here we find that each higher stage, as we find, comprehends the lower, and even in spirit, many perceptions we find that they remain obscure, confused. So in the higher order, all the monads are included. The higher also includes the lower. So Leibniz's conception of monad is better understood when they are compared with the self of the individual human being. How? Now all the qualities of the soul are also found in the monads. The self possesses the power of perception and willingness, and monads also possess similar qualities. All the monads, whether higher or lower, whether perfect or imperfect, all are souls. The same active force which is found in plants and animals are also found in the mind of the human beings. Everywhere there is force, what we find, there is only a variation, but there is no vacuum anywhere. So in this way, by taking the help of the monads, Leibniz tried to explain the world. And while explaining the monads, Leibniz accepts that, as we find, Descartes say that there are two substances which are completely different from each other, the mind and the body. Mind is unextended and body is extended, and they are completely different. But Leibniz philosophy does not accept these two opposite substances. Leibniz says that both mind and body, they are monads. And here he tried to explain that body is an aggregate of the bare monads or the naked monads, and mind monad is the more conscious one than that of the body. So taking both body and mind, Leibniz tried to explain their relation through his pre-established harmony. So with this, I finish. Hello? Hello? Yes, you are not audible.
Actually, it is the end of your lecture, or
Yes,
would you like to conclude it?
I would like to conclude it. Just I want to say that by giving the series of monads, from bare monads up to the gods, Leibniz says that the entire universe, what we see, it includes either within the bare monad or the highest spirit soul, the God, and in this way he tried to explain the universe.
Okay, thanks so much for your lucid presentation, Dr. Misra. Now your lecture program is open for discussion. May I now request our moderator, Dr. K. Omnaran Rao. Hello, sir. Omnaran, sir. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Namaskar, everybody. Namaskar.
Okay.
Namaskar.
Okay. And Dr. Mishra has already ended her lecture program. It's a time for question answer session. You are requested to facilitate the interview session as the moderator of the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I thank Dr. Devadatta Mishra for her paper, for her presentation.
Devasis, it is not audible. Devasis?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Devasis, it's not audible. Please see that
Browser is not
technical
audible.
problem.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, please take care of the technical problem.
Okay, so what should I do now? Can I ask questions?
Hello, hello.
Actually,
Hello. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Now you are audible.
Madam, audible. Okay. So,
Yeah.
we find a question. Madam, are you able to hear? Am I audible now? Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Somebody
Yes,
please respond.
yes sir.
Okay,
Now
okay.
you are audible.
Okay. So, Dr. Devadatta Mishra Madam, we have a number of questions in the chat box, and we want your responses on these questions. She wants to know, can we compare monads with the concept of jiva in Jainism? Dr. Mishra, please comment. Can we compare the monads of Leibniz with the concept of jiva in the concept that we have in Jainism?
So the jiva, as you find,
Jiva.
Pardon?
Jiva in,
am I not audible?
Ma'am,
you are audible, madam. You are audible.
So as I find jivatva by jiva, that is the state of life, the state of the individual soul. And when we are talking about monads, and we find there is a series of monads from the bare monads to the highest monad, God. Here there is when we are talking about soul, and we find that it is accompanied with memory, and the soul is found in animals and plants, which is in a different degree in the Leibniz monad. And when the soul is accompanied with consciousness, it becomes the spirit. It refers to the individual human being, and also the highest standard is called as God. So as we find the jivatva, that we find it refers to the soul. Here in Leibniz, he also accepts that soul is there, and here the soul is with certain memory, and it is an active force. From the very beginning, Leibniz cleared that monads are not self-existent, rather they are self-force, self-active. And here in Jivatva, the soul is exist, and here it is the state level in which the living creature, individual souls, all are there. And it also accepted in Leibniz philosophy, where in Jainism or in the Jiva concept, it refers to the soul, the individual being, the individual soul or creature. In Leibniz system, this soul refers to the living creatures, the animals, the plants, and here he said that it is accompanied by a memory.
Okay. So we move on to the next question. So it is by let me see. It is by Arpana Das. She wants to know why Leibniz calls the monads as windowless. Why he says monads are windowless?
Leibniz called monads as windowless because he said that it is something which has no part. It is truly indivisible. And here it is self-sufficient. It is self-active. And being spiritual, they are as self-sufficient. It is not necessary to have some window, because if there is certain window in it, then something will go out and something will come, and in this way it will be divisible. But from the very beginning, Leibniz explained that monads are indivisible and simple elements. So that's why he explained it as windowless.
So the next question is by Niranjan Behera. He wants to know why we see, or why does Leibniz hold that monads are spiritual? Why he says monads are spiritual?
Explain, sorry, pardon, please repeat the
Why
question.
are the monads in Leibniz are said to be spiritual?
Monads are spiritual because, as you know, only a spiritual unit is indivisible, like our own self-consciousness existence. And we know it is real. So as monads are, Leibniz explained, indivisible, that's why he said that it is spiritual. Spiritual units are indivisible. And we know that our own self-consciousness existence, it is indivisible, and we know that it is real. So that's why Leibniz explained it as spiritual.
We move on to the next question. Move on to the next question. It is by Sasmita Bisoi. There is a problem in the network today. It is by Sasmita Bisoi. She wants to know that you say that we see that in the philosophy of Leibniz, God is the highest monad. Now she wants to know. Well, you have shown the classification. You have given the classification. He wants to know about the bare monads and the different kinds of monads that we see in the classification of monads in the monadology of Leibniz. She wants you to reflect on the entire structure of the classification that we have in the monadology of Leibniz.
Pardon, your voice is not audible.
Is it not? Is it
not clearly audible to me?
Okay. Actually, it's a question by Sasmita Bisoi. Now, am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes. It is a question by Sasmita Bisoi. She wants to know about the classification of monads. She wants to know about the highest monad, God. Okay. She wants, in total, the entire classification of monads in the monadology of Leibniz. Am I clear to you now, madam?
Yes.
Okay, please comment on this.
She wants to know the entire classification, no?
Yes. And one more thing. Any relationship that can be established between the monads also.
Yeah.
Any relationship, the entire classification of monads, okay, and any relationship that can be established between these monads. And the relationship between the monads.
So you will find that as while explaining the monads, Leibniz very clearly said that there is a classification of monads, as there is a series of monads, and in this series, the lowest monads are those in which the perception is most obscure. And it is in a dormant stage. And then from the bare monad or naked monads, there are conscious monads who are endowed with memory, and these monads refers to the plants and the animals. From the conscious, these plant and animals, then we proceed to the point that what we call as the soul. If the soul is conscious, then it is called the spirit, the highest monad. And here the highest monad has risen. It has the knowledge of the universal truth. It has the necessary knowledge, and they are raised to the knowledge of the self as well as the God. So here, from the spirit, then we go to the queen monad, the pure form. So here we find that from the lowest monad to the highest monad, there is a relation. As I have already said, Leibniz, while explaining the mind-body relation, he said that, as Descartes explained, both are independent. Body is extended, mind is conscious. Here Leibniz says that the body is that which consists of the bare and naked monads, and the mind is the conscious one. The mind is more conscious than the body, and here taking the mind-body, Leibniz tried to explain the mind-body relation, and from this relation also we find that the monads, as explained by Leibniz, are also related.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. We have the next question by Dr. Ratnakar Gajendra. He wants to know the difference between perception and appetition.
As we say, perception, here we find that perception is what we in general perceive, but in case of monads, we find that the perception. Can I take 1 minute, please?
You are comfortable, madam. You can take as much time as you can. Okay, you want a break? Acha, you want a break? Okay. Sorry, you can.
So here we say that when we say perception, the monads, by virtue of perception, mirrors the whole infinity of existence. That means here it perceives. And when we say perception, that means it tries to gather or try to have some knowledge, some perception, whether it is clear or unclear. So when we say perception, it perceives the existence, the infinity of existence it perceives. And when we say appetition, appetition means the monad is in a force. By force, what it perceives, it becomes, try to know whether it is obscure or clear. Hello?
Okay, madam. Thank you. The next question is by Ajit Kumar Nas. Actually, he has a question. He wants to know that for Leibniz, a body is a monad, and he says that body is taken to be an aggregate of bare monads. If body is taken as an aggregate of bare monads, then body as such is divisible. But if you take the structure, the scheme in Leibniz, we see that monads are indivisible. But if you take body as an aggregate of bare monads, then the question of divisibility arises. So she wants to know how to justify the indivisibility of monads in the scheme of Leibniz.
Please repeat the question again.
Okay, madam. Am I audible now? Am I audible? Okay.
Actually,
So it is.
there is some network problem. Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
audible.
So.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now I think I'm audible. Now it's a question where it is said that a body is taken as an aggregate of bare monads, a number of monads. If you take body as an aggregate of a number of monads, then is it that the question of divisibility enters into the scheme of monadology? We see that
Actually,
monads are, but we see
in
monads are
monadology,
indivisible.
Leibniz says that monads are indivisible. But when we say body, body is an aggregate of monads and a compound substance. As we say, it is framed with a series of monads. So, when we divide it, each monad itself will exist. It will remain indivisible. As a single one, it is indivisible. But when we make an aggregate of them, then the aggregate is there. And when the body, suppose perish or suppose something happens, then the indivisible monads will remain indivisible, and the compound substance, which or the body which is framed by an aggregation, it turns to be parts.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. The next question is by Dr. Ratnakara Gajendra. He wants to know why extension is not considered to be real by Leibniz.
Extension
Is not considered to be real by Leibniz. Why Leibniz doesn't consider extension as real?
extension is not real. As you know, extension refers to body. Leibniz is also a rationalist philosopher. He is a follower of the Cartesians, followed Descartes, but it doesn't accept the independence substance, which Descartes admits that body, and we know the body has extension and mind is conscious. Sir, can you repeat the question? Sir, sir.
So he wants to know why extension is not considered as real by Leibniz. Why extension is not considered to be real?
Extension, as we know that it is an attribute of the body. Extension is a part or a quality of the body. So, in the hierarchy of monads, the body refers to the bare or naked monads, and they are in the dormant states. And the mind being conscious, Leibniz through his pre-established harmony tries to explain the relation between body and mind, and when he tried to explain it through the pre-established harmony, here he explained that the body and mind, just like the two parts of the clock, and they are acting in a proper way. So the body is not real, as it refers to the bare monads or the naked monads.
Okay, madam. Okay. Let us move to the next question. It is by Niranjan Behra. He wants to know if monads are not extended, if monads are unextended, then why Leibniz's entire scheme is called as spiritualistic pluralism.
What?
Did you get me, madam? Did you
Leibniz
get me,
is?
madam?
Hmm.
Why Leibniz's entire scheme is called as spiritualistic pluralism?
Spiritualistic pluralism.
Madam.
We know that Leibniz accept monads are spiritual. And as we know,
Leibniz means
there is
one is to hold that.
as we know, there is a series of monads in the universe, and Leibniz basically explained his theory of monads to explain the world. So, as there are a number of monads, and the monads are spiritual in nature, that's why he said that it is spiritualistic pluralism.
Okay, madam. Thank you. Thank you. We have a next question. Am I audible, madam? Am I audible,
Yes, yes.
madam? Okay. So it's a question by Sony Wyo. It's a big question. I'm reading the question rather here. It's a question. It's something like this. Leibniz seems to argue that if one is to hold the traditional theistic conception of God and believe that one can meaningfully assert that the world could have been other than what it is, then one must hold that the world is the best possible one. So the question is then, what should be the criteria by which we can say the world that we have is the best one? So finally, everything resorts to the question, what can you say to be the criteria by which we can justify that the world that we have is the best one?
What you say? I don't understand. Repeat again.
Okay, okay. No, I'm not repeating the question. I'm just making it simple to you. By taking the monadology of Leibniz, try to explain the world and whether the monadology of Leibniz is able to explain the world in the best possible way, or do you suggest any sort of improvement in the entire scheme of the monadology of Leibniz to have a conception of still better possible world? So how do you see Leibniz in understanding this world, and how do you define the criteria to suggest what is criteria for having a best possible world? Am I clear now? What should be the criteria by which? What should be the criteria by which we can say that the world is the best one? So how do you justify this by taking what are problems? How can you
Your voice is just.
Not clearly audible. Actually, clearly audible.
There is some problem.
Sir, it is not.
Sir, it is not audible.
It is not audible.
not
Yeah, you are not audible. You are not audible. Your voice is fluctuating.
Not clear, not audible. Not clearly
Sir,
audible anything.
Not audible means it is fluctuating as the sound.
No word is clear.
audible now?
Not.
Oh, it's not clear. Acha. Hello, am I audible now?
Now you are audible.
Yeah.
Um,
Am I audible now?
yes, now you are
Am
audible.
I audible now?
Audible.
Okay.
Audible, but fluctuating.
So, Okay, I'm trying to put the question in a
Not clear, sir. Not clear, sir. Not
not
clearly
clear.
audible, sir.
So I have to
No.
not
What happened, sir?
saying somebody asked the question.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yes, sir.
hello, audible now? Is it audible now? Not audible. Okay, I'm going to a different place now.
Oh, Kailash sir, please unmute yourself.
Now, Kailash is unmuted.
Actually,
Yeah.
actually, Dr. Rao is not audible.
Is it
Please, okay,
is
please.
it audible now? Now audible? Now audible?
No, no.
Is it audible now?
The voice is floating.
No,
Now am I audible now?
now
Am I
audible,
audible?
audible.
Audible? Audible. Okay. So the question is something like this. The question set riser is solely wow. The question riser wants to know what can be taken as criteria for having a best possible world. How do you see monadology in defining a best possible world? Is it successful in having a conception of a best possible world? Do you see any defects in that? And how do you see what would be the criteria to define a best possible world? Hello,
So,
hello,
can we analyze? Hello?
hello,
Hello?
hello. हाँ.
Am I audible?
Yes. हाँ, madam, carry on.
So here we find that Leibniz explained the world through monads, and here he tried to say that, as we find in the earlier, Spinoza brings the existence of God and says that both mind and body are attributes of God. In Leibniz, is a rationalist philosopher. By taking the help of the monads, he tried to explain the universe, that there are a number of substances, and these substances, even though they are not different in kind, they differ in only a degree, and in a whole, they can explain the universe. So Leibniz, as I found, taking the best part of the Cartesians and the atomists, that the atoms, as we know, they are the smallest unit of extension, out of which larger can be extended. And here, Leibniz, by taking the monads, try to explain that in the universe, as we find in general, there are various series of beings in the lower stage, then higher. So here he tried to explain that in this hierarchy, through this hierarchy, we can explain the universe best.
Okay, madam. Thank you. The next question. Am I audible? Am I audible? Somebody please. Am I audible?
Yes, now
Am I audible?
Audible, sir.
Okay.
Audible, sir.
The next question is by Renubala Sundar Rai. She wants to know whether Leibniz be considered as a realist.
so far as
Madam.
Leibniz is concerned, we know that Leibniz is an idealist, and here he explained the substance of his epistemology by the idealism so far as realism is concerned, we know that can I take 2 minutes? So, Leibniz philosophy, as we find, he is a purely idealistic, and he tried to explain his philosophy in a manner. So we cannot say that he is a realistic in the true sense. So when we say realistic, real, it focus on the real, and it means that accepting the situation or something as real. But when Leibniz explained his philosophy, he explained in such a way that here we cannot say that it is realism, rather it is Leibniz, it is the idealism.
Okay. Now,
Okay, thank you, madam.
sir,
Thank you,
Dr.
madam.
Sir, please propose vote of thanks, sir. It's time to conclude, sir.
By
Vote
again,
of thanks. Actually,
we
I
want to
want to
know-
say few lines. Today, I am not mentally stable due to some
Hello.
reasons. I know it very well.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, really, I am not in a state to say something to explain. But as I cannot say no to him, I just come here, and I know that my mental stability is
Yes,
very
yes.
not fluctuating today. Due to
Yes,
some
I know. Yes, yeah. Okay, I'm very much conscious of your mental stage today. You for the entire day. You have been in tension. Okay, I know that. Still, and thank you very much for attending the program. Now, I request Dr. Omna Rao to please propose vote of thanks. Formally. Okay, Dr. Rao, please.
Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Because of the paucity of time, because we have another session by Professor Pramod Kumar Das. Let us carry on. Thanks very much, madam, for responding to the questions in the best possible way. We should have more issues back the shortage of time, so we are moving to the next session. So before moving, I, on behalf of the philosophy family, thank you from the core of my heart. Thank you, everybody. So let us move to the next session, and over to Dr. Koras Mahana, sir.
Okay, thanks so much, Dr. Rao, for beautifully moderating the session, and that is